Hey Run Junkies, welcome back to the Journey to Triathlon series. And now that the weather has finally warmed up, we are well into June, I'm going to start talking about swim training specifics, what your training plan might say, and some of the extra equipment you could use to enhance that training. I'm going to go specifically through the training plan that I am using from Garmin Connect, talk a little bit about the specifics within that training plan, demystify some of those terms, and show you some options for additional equipment if you want to challenge yourself. So just like with all sports, you want to train specific to that sport itself. For example, if you are training for a marathon, you are going to run longer distances at slower paces rather than a bunch of 100-meter sprints. It's two very different things. The same is true with all three sports in triathlon, but the swim can be particularly tricky if you don't have a background in swimming, if you're new to it, if you're uncomfortable in the water, or maybe you have limited access to a pool. Let's talk terms first. Now, most swim workouts, in my experience, have been listed in meters. There's not much difference between a meter and a yard, and frankly, it doesn't really matter all that much when your swim workouts, more often than not, will exceed the race distance for which you're training. For example, my swim distance for the sprint triathlon is 800 meters. Most of my workouts are 1,200 meters or more. But just for reference, a meter is about 4 inches longer than a yard. Now, sets are usually listed like this. You might have a 5 by 200 meter or maybe a 4 by 300 meter set with a specific rest in between. For triathlon, because we are talking about long distance endurance instead of very quick sprints, you'll have longer meter sets and shorter breaks. Now, this is to build up that endurance at distance. Now, some swim sessions will include drill sets. One of the most common is called a catch-up drill, and that is when you have both arms in front of you, either on a kickboard or in a streamlined position with your face in the water. You pull with one arm, bring it back around, and when it catches up to the other arm, you bring the other arm around and catch up to the other arm. And now that you would do for maybe 25 to 50 meters. This builds even strength in both arms. Another drill that I personally like is the fingertip drag. So when you have both arms out and you are swimming, you're pulling down, bringing your elbow up and dragging your fingertips through the water. And then you pull with the other arm and drag your fingertips through the water. What that does is it develops a high elbow form, so you're actually being pretty efficient when you bring your elbow out of the water and reach. The last drill is a right-left focus. So you might do one length of the pool using your right arm only, turn around and do the left arm on the way back. You can do that with a kickboard or just by in a streamlined position. Swim and breathe, and then swim and breathe. Again, this develops even strength on both sides, so you're not overcompensating on one side and weak on the other. There are a lot of other drill types, but these are three of the most common and some of my favorites. Let's talk gear extras. Now, none of this is an absolute have for your swim training. If you don't have access to it, it's not that big a deal. It might make some of your sets a little bit easier, or it might just break up the boredom a little bit and give you something else to think about. And the more you have, you might be adding some resistance, which will make you stronger in the water. First and most common is a kickboard. You will probably use this the most, especially if your swim calls for a kick set. You can hold onto the kickboard and just kick your feet for that particular set. You can also use a kickboard in some of your drill sets if you want some stabilization in the water. Holding onto the kickboard helps you develop that leg strength in the water. However, many triathletes, myself included, have something called lazy legs. We don't kick up to a froth like you would see an Olympic swimmer actually kick. We kick a lot slower and a lot easier because we have to save our leg strength for the bike and the run. Now, if you want to add some resistance to your kick set, you might add a pair of swim fins. These are great to add to work on your leg strength a little bit in the pool. However, don't use them for everything because you want to understand how it feels without them in the water. I really like using these for kick sets, but I try not to use them for swim sets. Now, for upper body work, you might want something called a pull buoy. Now, this is a piece of foam that will sit between your legs. You hold it in between your legs as you swim, and you are focusing only on upper body. You're not kicking when you have the pull buoy on. And you can add resistance with a pair of hand paddles, just like this. These fit over your hands and you pull it through the water this way. Using these really helps develop that upper body strength. So now what about warm up and cool down for the pool? Your best bet, like your best practices with running, is to do some dynamic stretching and warm ups before you go out for your run. The same is true before you get in the pool. Doing arm circles and arm swings and some stretching for about 5 to 10 minutes before you get in the pool is really going to help you warm up effectively. Then typically your first set includes maybe 300 meters or about 5 to 10 minutes of an easy swim. Now your cool down is going to be about the same. It's 200 to 300 meters, 5 to 10 minutes, super easy. Now for me, when I'm doing my cool down, it's usually about 200 meters, it takes about 5 minutes, but I will switch up every length. I'm doing a different stroke. So I might start out with freestyle and then switch to backstroke and then switch to breaststroke, and then I will just do that cycle until I'm done with my cool down. That just kind of releases some of the tension in the muscles that I've been doing just from freestyle. Breaststroke is a really good way to kind of loosen everything back up again. So let's look at a few workouts from my training plan. So in the first week, this is week 1 of my training plan. This is the one I got from Garmin Connect. I have an easy steady state swim. Now it starts with a warm up of 300 meters in zone 1. I can add in a little bit of backstroke if I like. Then I do a kick set. Kick in zone 1 for 50 meters down and back. Then I rest for 10 seconds and I do that again. Now this repeat 2 times, that means it's a set of 2 by 50 meter kick. Now following that, we have a 6 by 200 meter set, swim or pull. In zone 2, so I'm working a little harder here. In between each 200 meters, I'm taking a rest of 20 seconds. I will do an easy swim at the end of 200 meters. This is my cool down in zone 1. Now what this note says, this is the coach that wrote this, don't worry about speed, work on technique and count your strokes on every third 50 meters of your 200s. Then write them down to compare future sessions. That stroke count is how you see that progress. So let's say, for example, on the first 50 meters, I'm hitting, 37 to 40 strokes. But then next time I do this particular workout, maybe in a month, I'm down to 32 to 35 strokes per 50 meters. That's the kind of progress we want to see. So that is this steady state swim. The next workout is a tech swim. I didn't do this particular workout, but I wanted to show you what this is. So you start off with a 300 meter warm up, again, mix of freestyle and backstroke. Then this is a complicated set. I actually had to look at this a couple of times. So it's a 5 by set, kicking for 25 meters, that's one length of the pool. Then I rest for 20 seconds. Then I do a drill of 50 meters, so that's down and back. Rest for another 20 seconds, then swim 75 meters. That's 3 lengths of the pool, rest for 20 seconds. So kick 25, rest 20. Drill 50, rest 20 seconds. Swim 75, rest 20 seconds. Then I do that whole set 5 times. Then my pull or swim for 150 meters, and then that's gonna be it. That's my cool down for the workout. So this workout ends up being about 1,200, 1,300 meters. Now this one says trying doing a catch up as your drill and alternate your kicking with and without a kickboard. These are just ways in which you can develop total body strength in the pool. Like I said, this catch up drill is one of the most popular. That's one of the ones I mentioned earlier, but you can really take any of these drill sets and mix it up. I really like to mix up my drill sets just to kind of fend off the boredom in the pool. Lastly, we're going to talk about the test swim. This is in week 2. This is to see my progress. We're starting out with a little bit of backstroke, again, a 300 meter warm up. Then we do a 50 meter swim at zone 1, so nice and easy, rest for 15 seconds. Go a little harder for 50 meters, rest 15 seconds. Go even harder than that for 50 meters, rest 15 seconds, and then a full out as hard as I can for 50 meters, rest 15 seconds. Then I do an easy, super easy recovery for 50 meters. Now at this point, I will probably take a little bit extra break before I start this next set. This, like I said, this is a swim test. This is to see my progress. Don't go out too hard, take your time and heart rate at the end of the time trial swim just to see where you're sitting. So this is just this is half the distance of the sprint distance triathlon swim, 400 meters, and that is 8 times up and back in the pool. So this is a 4x25-meter kick, 150-meter swim. So it's 175 meters. So this is basically a benchmark type workout. You want to see where you sit on this. The 400 meters here, this is the important part of the workout. If you do just an easy warm up and just be ready for that time trial, that's also fine. But the time trial is the most important piece of this. Okay, ideally, yes, you are doing at least 2 to 3 pool workouts per week, and ideally in a pool. It doesn't have to be outdoors. Whatever pool you have access to that is about 25 yards or meters. Your indoor pool is going to be the most effective because you have access to it no matter what the weather is doing outside, but you might be restricted by hours. As I said previously, swim triathlon workouts are usually about 2 to 3 days per week, 30 to 60 minutes in duration. Many training plans will have 2 workouts a week with an optional third, with the idea that the swim is the weakest of the 3 sports for you. Personally, when I got into triathlon, the swim was the easiest part and that was my strongest sport. So when I first started, I actually would drop swim workouts in favor of the bike and the run because that was my strongest sport. However, if the swim is your weakest sport, then you want to prioritize those workouts first. If your running is your strongest sport, those go away, but you want to work in favor of your swim workouts first. But let's say you're traveling or you're extra busy or you don't have access to a pool, but you still need to get that workout in because that is your weakest sport. This is when we start to talk about dry land training, and that is kind of its own video, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's basically strength training specific to triathletes and swimmers. This is a really great way to build that upper body strength without having to get in the pool. Now that's not ideal. That is not an ideal option at all times for every swim workout. But if you can get some dry land training in addition to your swim workouts or occasionally instead of your workouts, that's going to help you build that strength. I will leave links to some dry land training workouts in the description below. Please check those out. The bottom line is this. Look, swim can be as easy or as complicated as you like. If you just want to show up, do your laps, and go home, perfect. I'm just showing you a variety of different ways that you can look at your swim workouts, how to decipher all of the code, because if you don't have a background in swimming, it can be very confusing. The more you invest in your swim training, the more confident you will be on race day. My question for you today is this: what else do you want to know about swim training? Was this at all helpful? Please leave thoughts, questions, comments, and suggestions in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that thumbs up if you like this video. Next week, we're going to talk about bike training. I'm going to get on the bike trainer and show you all of that great stuff and the specifics around the training plan and the bike. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Get out there, go find your awesome, and until I see you next time, happy running. That guy has a lot to say. Frankly, because swim workouts do exceed... Would you shut up? You're loud. Yeah, go away. That's good to do. Okay. Frankly, because swim workouts typically exceed the... Sorry. Was it W.C. Field that said never work with children or animals?